Welcome, listeners, but take heed. We will say whatever we need
to share our knowledge, thoughts, and joy, and even things that do annoy.
Before we begin, please be aware, we have a tendency to swear.
You have been warned, make no mistake, so join us now.
We're for Fawkes' sake. Welcome to For Fawkes' Sake, a Harry Potter book movie compare and contrast podcast. I'm your host, Ellen, and again, I have my resident Brit, Max.
Hello, I'm the one with the funny accent.
It's not funny, it's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Since we always record 2 episodes each recording session, Abigail is still out taking care of her husband, but like I said last time, she should be back for our next session. And hopefully by then, things will have leveled out with Carly's schedule too, and we can get some episodes with all 4 of us.
That'll be really fun.
Right? I'm really digging the 3 people conversations. Not that just the 2 of us didn't have a good time recording an episode too, but it's been really fun having more than just one other person, and I'm looking forward to getting back to that and really excited to see what it's like with all 4 of us, especially since that's one person from each house.
For sure.
So while we're waiting for that to happen, let's just get on with this episode and fly into our Phoenix flashback. Last week, we covered the first half of Chapter 19, Elf Tales, and the corresponding film scenes that correspond only in the fact that Ron was in the hospital wing after being poisoned. Some of the general essence of the book chapter was included in the movie, but we didn't get to see Fred and George, Hagrid, or Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. We did get a beautifully awkward moment as Lav publicly realizes Ron's not that into her when he unconsciously mutters Hermione's name. In the book, Hagrid lets slip that Dumbledore argued with Snape, igniting all of Harry's meddling impulses. Moments to meddle are few and far between with classes, Quidditch practice, and being dogged by Cormac about Quidditch strategies as he thinks he would make a better permanent keeper, along with Lavender about Ron's feelings since he is always sleeping when she goes to visit him. In the end, he runs and hides in potions to avoid them both.
During episode 230, Oda agreed, our Potter pondering was, do you think it really was lucky for the Weasleys that Ron sat in Harry's compartment on the Hogwarts Express? Or did Ron sitting with Harry bring about more danger?
Hi, this is Jessica calling in my Potter pondering. Now, as far as Ron's luck goes, I think we can get really deep into a rabbit hole, with different scenarios and everything that had happened to Ron and the Weasley family since Ron became friends with Harry. But as far as actual luck goes, I think Harry was the lucky one that Ron chose his compartment. Because he not only gained a best friend, but he gained an entire family. So, yeah, I think Harry was definitely the lucky one in that scenario.
Hey guys, Jackson here with my Potter pondering. Do I think it was a lucky day for Ron the day he sat next to Harry on the Hogwarts Express? Yeah, I do. I mean, look, does being friends with Harry Potter come with a risk? Yes, but it's not just because you're friends with Harry Potter. It's because of who Harry Potter is as a person. He's a person who will jump in at any opportunity to save people. And that carries risks. And if you're his friend, a loyal friend, you're likely going to jump in and help him on that quest, and that's going to take risk. And not every death in the Weasleys is Harry's fault, because Fred would have likely died anyway because he would have jumped in on the fight anyway. Same with anyone else who died that day at Hogwarts. So, I mean, yeah, maybe you can put a little bit of blame on Harry with all the stuff that happened to Ron. But then again, Ron didn't have to choose to join Harry on every adventure, did he? I mean, he wouldn't be a very loyal friend if he did, but Harry would have understood if he didn't. Harry was always saying to them, don't come with me, I'll do this on my own. They said to him, no, we're in this together. So let's be honest, yes, it was a lucky day because Harry got something out of it. He got amazing friends who became his family, and Ron got a great friend, and so did Hermione. So, yeah. Do I think it was a lucky day the day that Harry and Ron met on the Hogwarts Express? Yes, I do.
David said, well, if the Weasleys, sans Percy, value loyalty so darn much, and luckily for them, their loyalty is never in the wrong and in bad places, unlike young Snape or Nazi von Douchebag II, then it will be all worth it to them.
Thank you so much for your responses.
Our trivia question last week was, what was the final score for the Quidditch match when Gryffindor lost to Hufflepuff?
The score was 320-60.
Oof, that's embarrassing.
That is awful.
Thanks, Cormac. Congratulations goes to Jessica Wallace.
Hooray!
I am totally rooting for her to break Mike and Megan's streak. Do you think she can?
You never know. For now, let's dive into the second half of Chapter 19, Elf Tales, and the absolutely no corresponding film scenes because they don't love us or want us to be happy.
Chapter 19, Elf Tales Part 2. On the morning of the Quidditch match against Hufflepuff, Harry stops in the hospital wing to visit an agitated Ron. Madame Pomfrey won't allow him to go to the match, worried it would overexcite him. He nervously asks Harry how McLaggen is shaping up, and Harry patiently repeats that he could be world class and he still wouldn't want to keep him, since he keeps telling everyone else what to do and thinks he can play every position better than the rest of them. He says he can't wait to be shot of him, and uses that as a segue to tell Ron to stop pretending to be asleep when Lavender comes to visit, since she's driving him mad too. Ron sheepishly agrees, and Harry says he should just tell her if he doesn't want to go out with her anymore. Ron says it isn't that easy, and then casually asks if Hermione is going to look in before the match. Harry says she's already gone down to the pitch with Ginny, and Ron looks glum as he tells him to hammer Smith. Harry says he'll try and hurries out down the deserted corridor. He's looking out the window to gauge the wind when an unexpected noise makes him glance up to see Malfoy and two sulky and resentful-looking girls. Harry demands to know where he's going, but Malfoy sneers that he's not going to tell him since it's none of his business. He does tell him he better hurry up, since they'll be waiting for the chosen captain, or the boy who scored, or whatever they call him these days. One of the girls gives an unwilling giggle, and Harry stares at her. She blushes, but then she and her friend follow Malfoy as he pushes past Harry. They turn a corner and vanish from view, leaving Harry to feel infuriated that his best chance to find out what Malfoy is up to falls at the same time as the match. Ginny demands to know where Harry has been when he sprints into the changing rooms, where the whole team is already dressed. As he changes, he quietly tells her he met Malfoy, and she's annoyed that it seems to matter to him right now. He says he's not likely to find out and grabs his firebolt, saying to come on. There's a little wind and some dazzling sunlight. Cormac tells Coot and Peeks to fly out of the sun so they can't see them coming, and Harry angrily tells him to stop giving instructions and to go set up by the goalposts. Once gone, he grudgingly turns to Coot and Peeks and tells them they should fly out of the sun. After he shakes hands with the Hufflepuff captain, Madame Hooch blows her whistle to start the match, and they're off. Harry hopes he can catch the snitch fast enough to end the game and still have time to get to the Marauders map and see what Malfoy is up to. A dreamy voice begins the commentary, saying Smith of Hufflepuff has the quaffle, mentioning he did the commentary last time and Ginny ran into him, probably on purpose, since he was being rude about Gryffindor, and probably regrets that now he's playing them. The voice then mentions he lost the quaffle to Ginny, saying she does like her, she's very nice. Harry can't believe someone let Luna Lovegood commentate, and even Professor McGonagall looks slightly uncomfortable, especially when Luna mentions the big Hufflepuff getting the quaffle from her, saying she doesn't remember his name, something like Bibble or Buggins. McGonagall loudly announces that it's Cadwallader, and the crowd laughs. Harry looks around for the snitch, but doesn't see any sign of it. A moment later, Cadwallader scores because McLaggen is too busy shouting criticism at Ginny for losing the quaffle to see it soar past him. Harry yells at him to pay attention to what he's supposed to be doing, and McLaggen retorts that he isn't setting a good example. Luna serenely announces the argument between Harry and his keeper, saying she doesn't think it will help him find the snitch, but maybe it's a clever ruse. Harry swears and sets off around the pitch again, looking for any sign of the tiny golden ball. Ginny and Demelza each score a goal, and then Cadwallader scores again, making things even, but Luna doesn't even seem to notice, as she keeps drawing the crowd's attention to interestingly shaped clouds, or the possibility that Zachariah Smith is suffering from something called loser's lurgy, as he hasn't been able to maintain possession of the quaffle for more than a minute. Professor McGonagall barks 70-40 into Luna's megaphone, and the Ravenclaw is surprised it is already. She then points out how the Gryffindor keeper has gotten a hold of one of the beater's bats, and Harry spins around to see McLaggen with Peakes's bat, attempting to demonstrate how to hit a bludger. Harry flies towards them, yelling for him to return the bat and get back to the goalposts, just as McLaggen mishits the bludger. Following a blinding, sickening pain, and a flash of light, distant screams, and the sensation of falling down a long tunnel, Harry wakes up in a comfortable bed next to a smiling Ron. It is hours after the match, ruining any chance of finding out what Malfoy was up to, and his head feels strangely heavy. He raises a hand and feels a stiff turban of bandages. When he asks what happened, it is Madame Pomfrey who tells him he cracked his skull. She mended it, but is keeping him overnight so he doesn't overexert himself for a few hours. Harry angrily sits up, saying he doesn't want to stay overnight, he wants to find McLaggen and kill him. But Madame Pomfrey pushes him back onto the bed and tells him that would come under the heading of overexertion. She tells him he will stay, or she'll call the headmaster, and then bustles back to her office. Harry asks Ron if he knows how much they lost by, and Ron apologetically informs him that it was 320-60. Harry angrily starts to say what he will do when he gets a hold of McLaggen, but Ron reasonably tells him he doesn't want to get a hold of him, he's the size of a troll. He suggests the prince's toenail hex, and also mentions that the team may have already dealt with him as they are not happy. Ron is doing a terrible job suppressing the note of glee in his voice that McLaggen messed up so badly. Harry stares up at the ceiling, head not quite hurting under the bandages, but definitely feeling tender. Ron then brings up Luna's commentary, shaking with laughter as he says he hopes she always commentates, but Harry is still too angry to find the humor. Ron stops laughing and mentions that Ginny came in earlier. Harry's imagination conjures an image of her weeping over his lifeless form as she confesses her feelings, and Ron gives them his blessing. But then Ron says she reckons he only just arrived on time for the match. He wants to know why, since he left with plenty of time, and Harry explains that he ran into Malfoy sneaking off with a couple of girls who did not look like they wanted to be with him. He now really wishes he had followed up on that since the match was such a fiasco, but Ron tells him not to be stupid since he's the captain and can't miss a Quidditch match just to follow Malfoy. Harry insists that he wants to know what he is up to and tells Ron not to say it's all in his head. Ron tells him he wasn't, but does point out that he's getting a bit obsessed with Malfoy. Harry is frustrated because he really wants to know what Malfoy is up to, and wonders where he keeps going when he disappears off the map. Ron suggests Hogsmeade, but Harry has been watching the secret passageways on the map and thought they were being monitored anyway. Ron says he doesn't know then, and silence falls between the boys. Harry finds himself wishing he had Scrimgeour's power so he could set a tail on Malfoy. He considers setting up something with the DA, but knows scheduling will be tough with classes. Ron falls asleep and begins snoring, and when Madame Pomfrey emerges from her office, Harry also pretends to be sleeping. She draws the curtains, dims the lights, and heads to bed herself, and Harry finds himself reflecting in the darkness how this is the third time he has been brought to the hospital wing because of a Quidditch injury. The last time, he fell off his broom because of the Dementors, and the time before that, all the bones had been removed from his arm by the inept Professor Lockhart. As he remembers how painful that injury was, made worse by the arrival of an unexpected visitor in the middle of the night, he sits upright, thinking of a way he can have Malfoy followed. He quietly calls Kreacher's name, and with a loud crack, the sounds of scuffling and squeaks fill the room, waking Ron. Harry quickly points his wand at Madame Pomfrey's door and casts Muffliato, then scrambles to the end of his bed to see two house elves wrestling with one another. With another loud bang, Peeves appears above them and complains that he was watching that, but happily continues observing the fight there. In a high-pitched voice, Dobby insists that Kreacher will not insult Harry Potter or he will shut his mouth for him. Kreacher insists that he will say what he likes about his master, the filthy friend of Mudbloods. As he worries what his mistress would say, Dobby sinks his fist into Kreacher's mouth and knocks out half of his teeth. Harry and Ron both jump up and pull the elves off of one another. Peeves continues to egg them on until Harry uses his wand, this time saying Langlock, and gluing his tongue to the roof of his mouth. Unable to speak, Peeves soars from the room, making rude gestures, and Ron appreciates the hex. Harry forbids the elves to fight each other, specifying that he forbids Kreacher, but he knows he can't give Dobby orders. As a free elf, Dobby happily agrees to do whatever Harry Potter wants him to do, and the two elves stop trying to get at one another. Kreacher sinks into a bow while giving Harry a look that plainly wishes him a painful death and asks about him calling. Harry tells him he has a job for him, and Kreacher retorts that he will do whatever Master wants because he has no choice, but that he's ashamed to have such a master. Dobby immediately speaks up, also offering to help, saying he would be honored to, and Harry decides that having both of them would be good. He tells them that he wants them to trail Draco Malfoy and ignores the surprised and exasperated look on Ron's face as he directs them to follow him around the clock to find out where he's going, who he's meeting, and what he's doing. Dobby readily agrees, saying he will throw himself off the topmost tower if he does it wrong, and Harry quickly tells him that won't be necessary. Kreacher questions his master's order to spy on the pureblood great-nephew of his old mistress, and Harry immediately spots the danger and also orders him not to tip him off, show him what he's up to, talk to him, write him any messages, or contact him in any way. He asks Kreacher if he's got it, and the elf struggles to see a loophole before bitterly bowing and resentfully saying he thinks of everything and that he must obey him even though he'd rather be the servant of the Malfoy boy. Harry calls it settled and asks for regular reports just to make sure he isn't surrounded by people when they do. He says Ron and Hermione are okay, but they aren't to tell anyone what they're doing, just need to stick to Malfoy like a couple of wart plasters.
It's a big chapter.
It's a big chapter. Not even one of the biggest ones, though. It's just very packed with detail.
And now, prepare yourselves for the most longest movie summary in the world. There are absolutely no film scenes for this part.
Whew, how did you make it through that?
My God, just the exhaustion. The exhaustion is overwhelming.
It's really quite frustrating, actually, because not only was there a lot of hilarity in this half of the book chapter, there was some pretty significant plot points to this half of the book chapter, and things that I just in general would have liked to see.
Well, I'm always in the camp of wanting to see more sports ball in the Harry Potter films. Like, I know that we don't always care about them, but since, you know, the last time we see a Quidditch match is... well, a match, the last one we see is in Prisoner of Azkaban. And that's a long time to wait for more.
Yeah. And I get that it was probably kind of difficult to do the graphics for it.
They did it in the first two well enough.
Yeah, they did. But if you go back and watch it now, I feel like I'm watching a video game. They're not great.
No, they're not great.
They're not great. It's even funnier if you're high because it really messes with you and you're just like, what's happening right now? When did I start playing a game? It's so weird. It's pretty bad. It wasn't bad for the time, but now I have a lot of high hopes for the TV series, and I hope that they do include a lot more Quidditch, because honestly, that's what really drew some people in. I've told this story before on the podcast. I don't know if you listened to that episode, but I was dating a guy when I first got into the books because I was a little bit older. I was 17, and I knew that he would love the books too. And I kept trying to get him to read them. And he even lied to me and said he didn't. But I finally dragged him to the movie when the first movie came out. And by the time we got to the Quidditch match, he turned to me and just goes, I want to play Quidditch. Like, that's what finally drew him in. Like, not that the entire stories did, because they're amazing. Like, I created a fan that day. It just was a battle to get him there. And it was Quidditch that did it. So they really should show more.
No, for sure. It's one of the most enjoyable parts. And it's a shame that even the Quidditch that we do get to see in the films is only between Gryffindor and Slytherin, apart from Prisoner of Azkaban. But I'm not counting that, because all we're actually seeing is Harry fall off his broom.
Right. They really just show what they need to move the plot forward, which I feel like is becoming one of the things we say a lot in this podcast, is just move the plot forward, which is all it feels like the movies do. Instead of really trying to make the most enjoyable story they can. And that's not entirely fair, because the movies are still enjoyable.
Yeah.
But do I think they're as enjoyable as the books?
It depends on your perspective. I think visually, some parts are always going to be more enjoyable than the books.
Oh, for sure. But I wanted more of the world building, and I think Quidditch falls into world building. Not to mention, this particular Quidditch match is when we get the Luna commentary, and it doesn't get better than that.
It doesn't, and she's severely sort of underutilized in the entire film.
Again, they just used her enough to move the plot forward.
Yeah.
But we also get a couple moments with Madame Pomfrey that I love. Because Harry's even noted this before in the book, that she does not ask a lot of questions. She's pretty chill about, like, oh, you did something stupid again? All right, here's what you need. And she's very matter-of-fact about it and a little bit sarcastic. And I really like her character, and we don't see any of that in the movie. Like, she exists as this person that walks about and hands things, but she doesn't get the same delightful little barbs that the books like to include. Like, the book chapter, this half of it starts off with Harry stopping in the hospital wing to see Ron because he's not allowed to go to the Quidditch match because she's worried he's going to overexcite himself and he still needs to rest.
It's fair advice for Ron, who gets overexcited at everything, and who would just be driving himself mad watching McLaggen play his spot for the match.
Oh, absolutely. She knows. There's actually a really good chance that if she let him out of that hospital wing, he'd try to suit up anyway.
Exactly. I'm here.
Especially
I can
after
play, it's fine.
He misses the first goal because he's too busy telling Ginny what to do. Like, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
He makes me so mad in this section. It would have been really nice to watch that come alive. But then we get this delightful little exchange between Ron and Harry where Ron's kind of insecure because Cormac is playing keeper and he knows that Cormac was in fact a very good keeper. He just happened to miss that last one, though he doesn't know why he missed that last one, and hopefully never, ever, 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 ever will. I feel like that's just one that even though they're married, Hermione is going to take that to her grave.
She can't tell Ron.
Should.
She can't tell Ron.
She can't. It could be 20 years later and it'll still destroy every bit of self-confidence that man has. But he's pretty insecure about it. And Harry's just like, dude, he could be the best Quidditch player in the entire world. And I still would be like, get the fuck off my team. And it's because he keeps trying to be the captain and act like he can play everybody's role better than they can. And just won't shut up giving advice. And Harry's ready for him to be gone. He's like, please just skip this match and relax and get better and come back. And then he said, also, speaking of being shot of people, can you stop pretending like you're asleep when Lavender comes to visit you? She's driving me crazy too. And Ron's pretty sheepish about this. He's just like, okay.
Like he wasn't expecting to get caught at some point about it.
I don't don't think he really thought that one through. I think it was just in the moment, trying to avoid this. I don't want to have this conversation. And that's what Harry says. If you're done dating her, just tell her. And he's like, it's not that easy. And you know what? Maybe the first time it's not that easy, but it really does get easier.
For Ron, it's not going to be that easy with Lavender.
Oh, God, no. The way that he does accidentally do it is far better than having a direct conversation. The way the movie had him unwittingly do it was the best case scenario for someone like Ron.
Yeah. I mean, it's sparing him a lot of tribulation.
Yeah. Anyway, Ron's just pretending to be asleep and avoiding talking to Lavender as much as he possibly can, but then casually just goes, is Hermione gonna drop in before the match? And then is disappointed when he learns she's already gone down to the pitch. Like, oh, well, go ahead and hammer Smith. He really should have hammered McLaggen, though. May have solved some future problems.
I mean, he doesn't need to. He doesn't even need to come the end of everything.
No. Harry says he'll try, probably in directions to both. And hurries out because now he's running low on time and needs to make it to the match to get ready. But no, that's not how that works out for him.
He's forgotten. He's not done his favourite thing of the day.
Meddled!
He's got to go and find Malfoy.
Meddling with Malfoy. Actually, he doesn't even have to go find him. He happens upon him and is so disappointed that he's on his way to the match and doesn't have time to run back up to his dorm to find the Marauders map to figure out where he's going. He does try the direct method and just say, where are you going? Which, you know, Nazi Von Douchebag's like, I'm not telling you. And I mean, I guess you have to try, but what were the odds that he was going to get some sort of villain monologue from Malfoy as he just starts explaining everything that he's been up to that entire school year so far? Just because Harry, the chosen one, James meddling Murray Potter asked him. It didn't work out that way.
It's not going to work out that way. But also, I think at this point, Harry likes Draco knowing that he's onto him, even though he doesn't know what he's on to. He's just pretty sure that something's happening.
Right. Unless, of course, you're watching the movie, in which case, at this point, Mr. Weasley's basically flat out told him what Malfoy's up to.
Not that Harry's even put two and two together in the movie at this point. Harry's just thinking, that's weird.
No, he's not quite there yet. It's still just trying to build that mystery up some. I think one of the extra curious things about this moment is that Malfoy is accompanied by two girls that look pretty young and kind of like they don't want to be there. And he's like, who the fuck are you? And then Nazi Von Douchebag the second makes this comment telling Harry he better hurry up because they're probably waiting for him on the Quidditch pitch. Like, they need the boy who scored or the chosen captain or whatever they're calling him now. And one of the girls giggles at this, which just strikes Harry as odd. So he's staring at her and she blushes. And then Nazi Von Douchebag's just like, whatever, let's go. And he leaves and the girls follow after him and Harry watches them disappear. And then by this point, he's like, fuck, I have to get to the match. And he barely makes it on time because when he does get there, the rest of the team is already dressed. And Ginny's like, where the fuck were you? Which I think is a very fair question.
It's super fair, especially since like Ginny's become so instrumental to the success of this year's team.
She is essentially co-captain. And the movie really seemed to set it up that way. But she is really the one who keeps things together when Harry's not around. He does change and kind of quietly explains to her why he was late. And she's just like, does that really matter now? We have a match. And he's like, it's not like I'm going to figure it out anyway. And he just grabs his firebolt and like goes, let's go. Like, that was all she wanted, dude. Like, why are you getting snappy with her just because you didn't get to meddle? It's not Ginny's fault. She has her priorities straight.
I was saying, and Ginny doesn't give a shit about this. It's not like she's directly involved in the drama that Harry, Ron, and Hermione get up to every year. She's got her own shit going on.
Yeah, and she has her priorities straight.
Win. That's the priority.
Right. Which, when it comes to Quidditch, isn't that all that really matters?
And it's all they're really used to as well. Like, Harry should be, you know, trying to keep that sort of record going of Gryffindor wins at Quidditch.
Right.
Usually.
I mean, maybe... Yeah, honestly, the only times they don't win is because of some huge faux pas. Or sometimes the faux pas is an outside problem. Like, it's never because their players aren't capable. With the exception of Cormac McLaggen, who probably could be a really good player if he could figure out how to be a team player. But he thinks he's captain and is really, 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 really fucking obnoxious about it. He even tries to give Coot and Peaks some advice when they're heading out to the pitch. He's like, oh, it's really bright. Make sure you fly out of the sun so they can't see you. And Harry's like, shut up. You are not the captain. Just go set up by the goddamn goalpost and do your own fucking job. And then once he's out of earshot, he turns to Coot and Peaks and is just like, but make sure you do fly out of the sun. That was actually good advice. I hate that I have to admit that.
I mean, but good advice doesn't just mean the advice is good. It's got to come from a place of, like, constructive criticism, not just McLaggen being McLaggen.
Right. And he doesn't have the rapport built up with the team at this point. This is somebody who did not make the team the first time, coming in and trying to act like he's better or acting like he thinks he's better than the rest of them. They're already not going to take his advice.
No, for sure. And I wouldn't take his advice. Like, he missed that final shot in tryouts really badly. Like, he can't be any good, surely.
I mean, he was definitely not his fault. But they don't know that. They maybe figured it out. Harry did, but still.
I don't know how Harry figured it out.
You know, for not being a Ravenclaw, he sometimes does have his moments. And he was just able to put 2 and 2 together because Ron made a offhanded comment about it looking like he was confounded because he flew in the complete wrong direction, and then he saw him walk into the door frame. So it was just kind of like, something's off here. And he was standing near Hermione. Huh.
More things we should have seen in the films.
Right? We saw only the bit of Hermione somehow managing to cast a spell without her wand at the ready just by saying it. But that was, and then he missed the shot, but that was it. We didn't get any of the extra fun stuff afterwards. But for Harry to reiterate what that advice was, then it's going to take more of a place of importance in the way they play because this is what their captain said. So he was like, that is good advice. I should reiterate it so that they know they can do that one, even though an absolute idiot told them to. Which I really feel like is what's got to be going on inside his head at this point. He's such a pain in the ass, and it only gets worse from here. I love the fact that the poor Hufflepuff captain doesn't even get a name. It's just Harry shakes hands with the Hufflepuff captain, and Madam Hooch blows her whistle, and the match starts. Poor Dedrick.
Poor Hufflepuffs in general don't get much of a look here.
Oh yeah, they didn't get a good, solid representation that lasted very well. Especially since now the most talked about Hufflepuff is Zachariah Smith, who they're now playing against, and he does get the ball first, and this very dreamy voice. Which the moment you read Dreamy Voice, you know who it is. But I love the fact that they don't tell you who it is until Harry's just like, who the fuck let Luna Lovegood commentate this match? Who in their right mind thought this was a good idea? But no, they just describe it as a dreamy voice, commenting on how Smith of Hufflepuff has the quaffle, and then going on to say he did the commentary last time. And Ginny ran into him, probably on purpose because he was being very rude about Gryffindor. He probably regrets that now, since he's playing against them.
I think it's good commentary.
I loved it. I honestly, like, if she could have just added all of that in with keeping track of the score and maybe knowing the players' names,
Yes.
she'd be fine, but it'd be great to listen to. She then says that Smith loses the quaffle to Ginny. And she goes, I do like her. She's very nice.
She's very nice. She's my best friend.
It's the best commentary ever. And that's the moment where Harry's just like, are you kidding me right now?
It is turning out to be a very bad match for Harry in general.
Yeah. And McGonagall is standing next to Luna, looking like she made the biggest mistake of her life. And then my favorite part ever is when somebody, this big Hufflepuff player, gets the quaffle from Ginny, and Luna's just like, I don't remember his name. It's something like Bibble or Buggins. And McGonagall is up there like, it's Cadwallader, Bibble Buggins. I mean, that's close. She was only one letter of the alphabet off on what it started with, and they totally sound similar. Not even close. It's not even close. Like, how do you... To be fair, Cadwallader is a very strange name to have to say, and Bibble and Buggins is way more fun. But they're not close.
No. But it's probably just what Luna thinks everyone's called.
Yeah. Harry started off the match being like, I need to catch this snitch fast so that I can get back to the castle and keep spying on Nazi von Douchebag. Mm. But at this point, Harry's just like, oh my god, I need to catch this snitch fast because this game is already a disaster. Already so problematic.
And we haven't even talked about the fact that McLaggen has started to fuck shit up spectacularly.
Oh my god. It's beyond spectacular. Because Cadwallader has the quaffle because he got it from Ginny. And McLaggen is so busy yelling at Ginny for losing the quaffle that he lets Cadwallader score. He doesn't even see the quaffle go past him through the hoop. And then you've got Harry that's like, dude, pay attention to what you're supposed to be doing. And then McLaggen has the fucking nerve to yell back at him that he's not setting a good example. He's the fucking captain. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. He just has to try and catch the snitch on top of that. You have to do your job so he can do his job. And you're fucking it up, man. Oh, he's so infuriating. I feel like they would have fared
better. We're seeing
better.
the real reason why he wasn't on the Quidditch team for this
right?
long.
And I feel like the team would have fared better without a keeper at all. On the plus side, Ginny and Demelza do each score a goal. So it's not looking too bad. That actually puts them ahead by 10 points until Cadwallader scores again. It's not looking good for McLaggen here. He's now let 2 goals through. So it's tied. And Luna has no idea. She's too busy telling people about these interesting clouds or coming up with this whole theory that Zachariah Smith must be suffering from something called loser's lurgy because he hasn't been able to hold on to the quaffle for longer than a minute.
It's not very professional commentary, but it is entertaining.
Like I said, if she wove stuff like that in with the actual scores and what's going on, it wouldn't be bad at all. It'd be really fun.
It's like, I mean, Lee Jordan is the epitome of how to comment on a Quidditch game.
Oh, yeah, there's no filling those shoes.
But she's close
Lee
if
Jordan,
she just knew the facts.
If she knew the facts, like, that's kind of important for a commentator. A little bit. She doesn't seem to not understand Quidditch. She's just way too dreamy to pay attention to what's going on.
Yes.
She clearly appreciates it. She goes to every single match. She supports her team, and if her team's not playing, she supports Gryffindor. And I love that. She's just so cute. I would have loved to see. Could you just imagine her in her lion hat with this megaphone talking about loser's lurgy?
It's not extremely impartial, is it?
No, it would be fantastic. And McGonagall would have to be like, you can't wear the hat. I'm going to wear the hat.
But there's precedence for being, partial to a particular team. Lee Jordan talking about those, I don't remember exactly exactly what he says. I'm pretty sure they say he swears at the Slytherin team.
Damn! McGonagall's trying to tug the megaphone away from him. Yeah. It's so great.
But we still have McLaggen being awful, even at this point.
Yeah. So Luna never says anything that means McGonagall has to take that megaphone away. She does, however, have to keep shouting things over her. So at this point, she yells out the score, which has gone up 70-40. So Hufflepuff is 30 points ahead. This is not looking good for McLaggen at all. And like you said, it actually gets worse.
It gets a lot worse. This isn't even like... This is
a lot worse. Like, pretty much as bad as it can get. Like, he screws the pooch to the point that he's never going to be allowed to play Quidditch again, and it's probably a good thing he's in his 7th year. It's unfortunate for him that he has to attend Hogwarts for the rest of the year. Because I don't think there's any coming back from this. So Luna is really surprised that the score is already 70-40, and she's like, oh, is it already? Because now the Gryffindor keeper has gotten a hold of one of the beater's bats and is trying to demonstrate how to hit a bludger. And Harry's like, are you fucking kidding me? And at this point, he has to completely abandon his search for the snitch and fly to McLaggen. But he doesn't make it there because McLaggen goes ahead and hits that bludger right at Harry's head. And Harry feels immense pain. Shit goes black. He falls. And he wakes up in a hospital bed with a cracked skull. And right next to a grinning Ron, who is probably grinning because he's happy to have Harry there to keep him company, but mostly grinning because McLaggen fucked up so badly. There is no way his role as keeper is in any danger at all. Like, they're going to welcome him back with open arms. I'm sure there was a part of Ron that was just like, what if McLaggen does really well and the rest of the team wants him to stay?
Which was a real danger.
Definitely.
We thought McLaggen might be a good keeper.
Yeah, but he's not.
No.
He's not a good keeper. First of all, he let 7 goals in pretty quickly in the match.
Yes.
Some of which because he was too busy trying to tell other people what to do. I don't know. Did he never just keep the rings? Was he too busy trying to do every other job the whole time and that's why he didn't save many? But Ron, so far, hasn't missed much.
No, exactly. And
so he's like super happy because he's just like, dude sucked. I'm awesome. Dude sucked.
But McLaggen lets in what, another 10? Like after the fact? Which means he hasn't learned from Harry being killed.
No. Yeah, because it was 320. Yeah. And you only get 150 points for catching a snitch.
So he's let in another 10 hoops after the fact of being 70-40 down.
Isn't it interesting, though? This always strikes me as so funny that dude can literally get his skull cracked injured during a match and they keep playing. They just played without a seeker.
With, an obvious rule break of the keeper having the bat and then hitting a bludger into his own captain.
At least Ginny and Demelza scored another goal apiece, probably.
I mean, yeah, there's some consolation there that it could have been... Technically, it could have been worse.
Because they do take the points and add them all up for who wins at the very end. So they at least still got the 60 points out of that. It's not great, but they were able to win overall in the end, which we'll talk about when we get to that chapter. But still, like, I can see why it's beneficial to finish the game. Like, maybe there's a chance they wouldn't lose by that much. It was that much, though. It was a lot. It was, like, almost 2 snitches.
It's horrific. It is really horrific.
Pretty problematic. Thanks, McLaggen. Thanks, Cormac. You douchebag. He's so frustrated.
I was going to say, but coming back to Ron learning this happening, and then Harry is carried in unconscious into the hospital thing. And Ron's there going, what happened? What happened? And then someone says, oh, Cormac took one of the Beater's bats and hit a bludger into Harry's head.
I know Ron had to have this moment between like, oh fuck, is Harry okay? And yes!
Literally, could not have gone worse for McLaggen today.
Literally. There was nothing that could have gone worse. And he is not hiding how happy he is about that very well at all. He's trying to. I'll give him that credit, but he's not doing well with it. I think that my absolute favorite moment of this chapter, because it's just such a little simple, sarcastic comment from Madame Pomfrey. Like I was saying, shit we don't get from her. But it is one of my favorite little parts of this chapter, is when he's like, what happened? And Madame Pomfrey's like, you cracked your skull. I healed it, but we're going to keep you overnight just so you can rest. I don't want you to overexert yourself for the next few hours. And Harry's like, I don't want to stay here overnight. I want to find McLaggen and kill him. And Madame Pomfrey just says, that would come under the heading of overexertion. Not fazed at all that Harry is threatening murder upon another student.
Well, she can fix that. That's not...
That's true. At this point, she's like, you're staying, or I'm going to call the headmaster. Your choice. And Harry just like, fine, whatever. And she leaves, and he turns to Ron and goes, do you know how much we lost by... And Ron's just like, yeah, it was 320 to 60.
Which was our trivia question.
Sure was. Harry, who is probably overexerting himself a little bit in this moment, is like, when I get a hold of McLaggen. And Ron's like, you don't want to get a hold of McLaggen. He's the size of a fucking troll. How about instead you hex him with the prince's toenail thing? The one that causes your toenails to grow at an alarming rate. And then says, although the team is so pissed, they may have already taken care of him. Come to think of it, do we ever hear about McLaggen for the rest of this book?
We never hear from McLaggen again, apart from... Oh no, God, that is it. I think that's it.
So for all we know, he's buried on the Quidditch field.
Oh, he's dead. He's dead.
That was just the end of Cormac McLaggen.
The end of Cormac McLaggen at the hands of Ginny Weasley.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there were 2 attempted murders and 1 successful one that nobody speaks of at all because everybody understands. Even McGonagall is just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that Ginny did this, but I'm gonna look the other way.
Yeah. She hexed him too well.
Right. So Harry's head doesn't really hurt, but it kind of feels off, which I think is fair after you've had a mended cracked skull. And Ron starts trying to talk about Luna's commentary, because how do you not? He wants her to always commentate as well. He found it wildly entertaining. And if someone who loves Quidditch that much is cool with her commentary, I feel like that says something.
I mean, Ron is a fan, like a Quidditch fan. Harry is a Quidditch player and he's pretty good at it. But Ron, even though he isn't probably as good as Harry, is way more into it than he is.
Oh yeah, for sure. But unfortunately, Harry's still super pissed. And he's not ready to laugh about this commentary yet. So he just doesn't say anything at all. And Ron's just like, all right, fine. Ginny came in earlier. And Harry, who is really starting to realize what's going on, like, movie Harry has fully confessed, not really confessed, but fully acknowledged with Hermione that he has feelings for Ginny. Yeah. Book Harry is still battling this internally and losing miserably, because in this moment he has this vision of her sobbing over his lifeless body and confessing her strong feelings of him, and Ron being like, you have my blessing to pursue this. And then this is shot to hell when Ron goes, yeah, she said that you barely made it to the Quidditch match on time. Like, I know you left with enough time. What happened, man? And then Harry's bubble just like deflates as he goes, oh, well, I ran into Malfoy and some random girls that didn't look like they wanted to be with him. And I had to try and figure out what I could in that moment, what they were up to. I really wish I had just followed up on that now, because that match was a fiasco. And this cracks me up so much, because this is the moment where Ron's like, dude, don't be stupid. You are the captain. You can't miss a match just to follow Nazi von Douchebag II. And Harry's just like, but I want to know what he's up to. And don't tell me it's all in my head. And Ron's like, I wasn't going to, but you're getting a bit obsessed. And I'm like, a bit? Now you're getting a bit obsessed? Where have you been this whole book, Ron? This is all Harry wants to talk about. He literally spends every free moment, albeit that's not a lot of time, but he spends every free moment that he has staring at the Marauders map, trying to figure out where Malfoy is on it or not on it. And you think he's getting a bit obsessed.
Well, now it almost affected a Quidditch match. So, now it's getting to the point where it's too much.
This is too much. Now, you have crossed a line. Your meddling with Malfoy is starting to become more important than Quidditch? What? Unacceptable, man. Unacceptable.
For book Harry, this doesn't even happen to movie Harry. This is book Harry, who still doesn't actually know what's going on.
No, he really doesn't. And he really wants to know. That's just Harry's MO. I want to know. It's his big meddling drive. Yeah.
Which I love about... I do love that about Harry as a character. You know I hate Harry. But the thing is...
I know you do.
I really empathize with I need to know that thing. I need to know now, and nothing else is more important than that. And I love that he's this little, bloodhound for information, which could be absolutely useless.
Yeah, he's a Niffler.
Absolute Niffler for knowledge.
A Niffler for knowledge. Not just any knowledge, though, or he'd be doing way better in all of his classes. Yeah. It's specifically meddling knowledge. If there's something that Harry probably doesn't need to know yet, he wants to know now.
All the teachers need to do to get him to be one of the best students is say, oh, but you don't need to know about that. And then he'll be the most studious
but I
person.
Want to. Absolutely. His big thing, though, and I think this is actually a very fair question, and I still can't believe he hasn't figured this out yet, but his big thing is, how does he keep disappearing off the map? Because it seems unlikely that he just can't see him. I know there's a lot of people on the map, but he's literally not there. He's like, where is he going? And Ron's like, maybe Hogsmeade. And Harry's like, no, I've been watching the secret passageways, and I'm pretty sure they're being monitored anyway. I don't think he could have, what are the odds that every single time he goes, I just miss it completely? He's looking at this map every free second that he has. The odds that he's always just missing him disappear seems very strange.
It does.
But also, the odds that he's never seen him be there and then disappear to lead to him figuring out that he's going into the room of requirement seems pretty crazy to me too. I don't know, maybe he just didn't know what he was looking at, because by the time that he figures it out, it's like oh, duh. I'm like, you figured out that Hermione confunded McLaggen and you can't figure out that Malfoy's utilizing the room of requirement that you used a lot last year?
Which he knows Malfoy knows about as well.
And he knew that it was unplottable, too. Because he used the Marauders map to make sure that it was safe for them to leave. He's really, really, really not a Ravenclaw in this moment.
Because I think everyone reading it will have figured it out by that point, that Malfoy must be using the room of requirement. And obviously, if you watch the movie, you know Malfoy's using the room of requirement. Right. But
it's been so long now, I can't remember if I figured that one out or not.
I think it hits you fairly obviously. I think... Obviously, you don't have the benefit of following Malfoy like you do in the movie. So you just have to go off the conjecture of Harry saying, I don't know where he's going, he's disappearing, he's not in Hogsmeade. So you have to assume he's in the castle, and I think you would get there fairly quickly if you were thinking...
I probably did. Like I said, it's just been so long.
Yeah.
And now I just know so well that it's hard. It's sometimes hard to erase the knowledge that you have and remember it from the first time.
I mean, theoretically, he could have been like in like the Chamber of Secrets or something. But Malfoy doesn't know about the Chamber of Secrets, so...
Yeah. Nor can he probably get into it. I don't think he can
unlikely.
speak Parseltongue. So... At this point, they pretty much stop discussing it because Harry's not in the mood to laugh. Ron doesn't have any more ideas about the one thing Harry does want to talk about, and they just sort of fall silent. And eventually Ron falls asleep. So when Madame Pomfrey comes out to check on them, he just pretends he's asleep too. But in reality, he's laying there like, God, this day sucks. And this is the third time that Quidditch has sent me here. Like, I've been put in the hospital 3 times because of Quidditch. And you know what's hilarious to me? Is this is the first one that was actually really Quidditch related.
100%.
Yeah. The previous time, he just fell off his broom because the Dementors fucked him up so badly. Not really a Quidditch accident. That wasn't caused by Quidditch. It just was an unfortunate time to succumb to Dementors.
Yes.
And then the time before that, I guess technically you could say it was a Quidditch accident since he was hit by a bludger that broke his arm, but it was a tampered with bludger. So it's not like it happened because they were playing Quidditch. It happened because, again, outside source fucked with things internally. And I think it was pretty hilarious that the real injury there was the appendix of the Wizarding World removing his bones. That was the painful part. Like, his broken arm was just like, well, that sucked. And then Lockhart being like, I'll heal it. And him being like, no, not you. And then deflated arm sack. Like, growing the bones back was the worst part of that. Technically not a Quidditch injury, you know?
No, 100%. And if you think about the severity of the injuries... Well, if we take them unaltered from the circumstances, so if he'd just gone in with a broken arm, if he'd just fallen off his broom without having also, been demented, and then this time he just, well, he did take a bludgeon to the head, but whatever. If you take all of those injuries, they're not even the worst ones we see in the series that people sometimes, get.
Oh, no. They're not even the worst ones that Harry has technically gotten.
No.
He was bit by a basilisk. That would have been really bad
really
if Fawkes
awful.
hadn't been right there. I mean...
But I think it's because he's starting to think, none of these were my fault. And I keep getting hurt.
It's never his fault. Except for the parts that he, put himself in those situations because of meddling and shit. But none of the Quidditch ones were really his fault.
No.
Just to backtrack a little bit, it's so funny to me that his first thought waking up in the hospital wing is, well, now it's way too late for me to stalk Malfoy.
Yeah.
And that's still, he had a cracked skull. He's really pissed at McLaggen. He does want to go kill him, but his main thought, because he can't go kill McLaggen right now, even though Ginny probably already took care of that for him, his main thought is, what the fuck is Malfoy up to? To the point that he wishes he had the same kind of power that Scrimgeour has so he could just set tails on him because he's thinking about how people were trying to tail Dumbledore and shit like that. To no avail. But this is what leads him through all of the times he's ended up in the hospital wing because of Quidditch. And the first time when he's trying to regrow his arms, he has this thought about how that process was made worse by an unexpected visitor, which you may remember was Dobby, who appears in the middle of the night and continues to try and persuade Harry Potter to leave Hogwarts for his own safety, thinking that his bludger might have helped with that. And Harry's like, what? But it makes him think of a way that he could have Malfoy followed, because now he's gone down this track of house elf. I have a house elf. I can literally order that little fucker to do anything that I want. And he's just like, all right, how do I contact him? And he like tentatively just goes, creature? And then with a loud crack, you would think that creature appears, right? Well, he does. But that loud crack comes with the sounds of scuffling and squealing. And then another loud crack, and Peeves, enjoying the fight that is going down between Creature and Dobby over the fact that Creature keeps insulting Harry and Dobby is not having it. And what? Like, we needed this. This would have been the best thing ever.
It would have been really well done as well. It would have really suited the theme of the film.
I know. And then we could have had Peeves in there, because the movies love to give us Peeves, right?
Oh, so many times. He's my favourite character.
But, like, could you just imagine Peeves floating over these two house elves fighting and just being like, I was watching that, and like, kicky, kicky, bitey, bitey, scratchy, scratchy. Like, I just want it, and we didn't get it, and I feel so deprived. And then, of course, all of this hubbub wakes up Ron, and Harry immediately casts Muffliato on Madame Pomfrey's door so it doesn't wake her up. And they end up, like, pulling the elves apart, Harry and Ron. Peeves is just like, yeah, go, woo, yeah. And Harry is finally fed up with him and just uses another print spell, Langlock, which literally glues his tongue to the roof of his mouth. And Peeves is really frustrated because now he can no longer speak. And he just makes some rude gestures, which, again, would love to see that. I don't know if they would include that kind of stuff in the kids' movie, the young adults, old children's movie, but still, like, I would have loved to see it. It would have been hilarious. And he's so frustrated, he just leaves, probably to figure out a way to unglue his tongue from the roof of his mouth. I also find it very interesting that that kind of stuff does work on poltergeists as well.
Yeah.
But at this point, Harry forbids the elves to fight one another. He's like, okay. Creature, I forbid you to fight Dobby. Dobby, I know that I can't order you to do anything. And Dobby's just like, Dobby will do anything Harry Potter says. Like, Harry Potter is 100% Dobby's unofficial owner.
Yeah.
Because I do not think that there is anybody in the world that Dobby would willingly offer to throw himself off the topmost tower if he does a task wrong than Harry Potter.
It does feel like Dobby is still in servitude a little bit.
I feel like we need to do a whole episode on elves.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
That can be a fun Potterheads of history, just because it's a really interesting concept with its comparisons to slavery, but then also the fact that they do seem to like serving people.
Nice. Yeah.
Good circumstances to live in and be treated fairly, and then they're perfectly happy? Or is that still slavery and bullshit? Like, I don't know. It could be a whole episode. But he definitely still has that servitude attitude towards Harry Potter. And they eventually, thanks to this order and Dobby's absolute willingness to do anything for Harry, they stop fighting. And Creature insists that he'll say whatever he wants about his master, the filthy friend of mudbloods. And he's starting to go, what would my poor old mistress think if she saw me now? But he doesn't get too far into these concerns because Dobby just rears his little elf fist back and jacks him in the face and knocks out about half of his teeth.
The power behind Dobby's punch.
It's the power of Harry Potter.
It's the power of freedom. That's what that is.
He would do anything for it. Yeah. Power of freedom.
America.
And Creature's just like, you rang. And Harry's like, yeah, I got a job for you. So Creature, being the pleasant little elf that he is, says, Creature will do whatever master asks of him because Creature has no choice, even though he's ashamed to have you as my master. So, with Creature's, like, you know, extreme enthusiasm about doing a job for his master that he hates, Dobby speaks up, like, oh, Dobby would be happy to do it for Harry Potter. And Harry's just like, you know what? Could be good to have two tails. And instructs them to trail after Nazi von Douchebag II, which makes Ron just be like, man, Harry, dude, a line, man, a line. You're getting a bit obsessed. And like I said, this is when Dobby says that he'll throw himself off the topmost tower if he does it wrong. And Harry's like, that won't be necessary. It's unbelievable. Like, Dobby is just so worshipy to Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, this is the proof is needed that Dobby is still serving Harry Potter. And I think, yeah, it could be a whole episode on how elf loyalties just, like, continue on.
And I love the fact, too, that here we have Creature questioning this direction. Like, you want me to spy on the pureblood great-nephew of my old mistress? And Harry's just like, danger, Will Robinson. It's like, yes, but it's like trying to make a deal with Faye. Yeah. He's like, yes, but you are not to tip him off in any way, show him what you're up to, talk to him, write him a message, or contact him in any way, shape, or form. Just close all of those loops. Be very specific. I am actually starting to think that House Elf might be Faye. The way that their contracts work as to...
I mean, kind of, yeah. Faye are usually, like, depicted as fairy servants that are, like, a little bit really mischievous and will try to, like, kill you.
So he's like, okay, closing all the loopholes. You got it? You got it? And Creature's just like, Master thinks of everything. And I must obey you even though I'd rather be the servant of the Malfoy boy. And Harry just glosses over this. He's just like, all right, well, that's settled then. I want regular reports. Just make sure I'm not surrounded by people. Ron and Hermione are fine. Don't tell anybody what you're doing. Just stick to Malfoy like a couple of wart plasters. And I still can't get over the fact that that is the analogy she used there. And that's how she chose to end the chapter, on wart plasters.
It fits the theme, like, you know.
It really does, but still, I'm just like, so Malfoy's a wart, and Harry's trying to get rid of him.
With his House Elf plasters.
House Elf plasters. But yeah, that's where the book chapter ends. It ends with wart plasters.
In a real roller coaster of a chapter.
Oh my gosh, so much happened. Like, it wasn't even that many pages. It was maybe 9 pages on my Kindle version.
Yeah.
Like, the whole chapter was like 18, 19 pages on my Kindle version. And I usually, like, split them in half. So I try to keep it to be about, like, around 10, 11 pages, depending on how long the chapter is. Sometimes they end up a little bit longer. Usually when there's Quidditch matches, it condenses. But this was such a big match with so much going on that it was a longer summary to read. And then I didn't have Abigail to split it with me. So it was just a lot of me talking this episode.
Hey, that's all good.
Which I suppose if you listen to my podcast, you're probably used to listening to me talk.
For our regular listeners, they just love Ellen's voice.
I don't know. I have a very strange, unique voice that is constantly making weird noises and voices and doing strange things. I hope that it translates well for a podcast. I don't know. But I feel like it's very important for me to have my co-hosts to help break it up.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get that this time. Because, again, no movie scenes. Shame and treachery of Warner Brothers.
And it wouldn't have been, especially since they were trying so hard to make this movie funny with as dark as it got. Like, this would have been such a great way to do that. There's just so much hilarity packed into these 9 pages.
Especially because when we get Dobby in Chamber of Secrets, the comic relief of his character isn't captured properly in the films. It's very odd. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then we don't see him again until...
The 7th one, is it?
Yeah, we see him in part 1 of Deathly Hallows.
And I think it's really interesting, too, that they decided to leave them out completely. Like, I get the fact that we already know from the movie that Malfoy's been playing around in the Room of Requirement with the Vanishing Cabinet that Mr. Weasley has specifically told us is the Vanishing Cabinet at this point. Like, I get that the movie has given us this information, and it is Kreacher and Dobby. Well, more so Dobby, because Kreacher gives the most useless reports ever about the very basic mundane shit that Malfoy does day to day. But Dobby is the one who's actually like, no, this is what he's doing. And that is how Harry ultimately figures it out. So I guess since the movie's given us that information already, we don't need them to figure it out. But also, why did the movie have to give us this information already? Why couldn't they include Kreacher and Dobby to help Harry figure it out?
Is this even a good idea that Harry has?
Probably not, but it works for him.
I like it in the book.
And it brings about some really fun scenes. And we get to see the house elves again. I don't know. I liked it in the book. I feel like I want that to be our Potter Pondering.
What are your thoughts on the movie leaving out Harry, setting Kreacher and Dobby to tell Malfoy? I think that's a great Potter Pondering.
Find the post on our Facebook page and share your thoughts. Or call us at 216-526-6792 and leave your response as a voicemail. Make sure you start off telling us your name and then go into your answer. Don't forget you can also stitch your response on TikTok. And I feel like I never remember to say this, but if you are living international and cannot call our number, just record it on your phone and email it to us at foxsakepod@gmail.com. That totally works too.
Well, we really look forward to reading, hearing, and seeing those.
This week's wizarding word is that an open casting call has been announced for the residents of UK and Ireland for actors ages 9 to 11 to take on the roles of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. So, pressure's on, y'all. You got some big shoes to fill.
Do you remember the hype? I mean, I was little, like, beyond little, I was a baby. But you will remember the hype, I'm sure, around the casting. And I've seen like videos of interviews that they gave and things like that.
I just hope that everybody remembers that they are picking children to play these characters. And as great as Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint were in these roles, they grew into them. And we grew to love them. There's a lot of complaints about them in the beginning, too. Daniel Radcliffe's eyes weren't green. Emma Watson's hair wasn't frizzy enough. Her teeth weren't big. She was way too pretty. Like, Rupert Grint was perfect, but, you know, you are never going to make everybody happy with the selections. And I just hope that people can remember these are children, and we should give them a chance, because it's not going to change the originals. The originals will still exist. We can go back and watch them whenever we want. This just brings it to a new generation, and it reinvents the magic in a way, with new faces and hopefully more aspects from the books. So I'm excited about it, and I am sure they are going to find the best ones that they can find, and I'm willing to give them a chance. I just hope we don't see too many trolls on social media being assholes about children.
I assume that we're going to see much higher production values all around. And, you know, you can't know in advance whether or not you're going to like the actors they choose. You just can't. Especially since they're going to be picking basically fresh actors who have probably never done anything before or very little before. So you do have to, you know, you've got to go into it with a really open mind. If you're going to watch the series, you can't set off hating it.
Right.
Go into it and decide that you're really going to try and like it for what it's trying to do, not what it ends up being. Like, sure, if we get to season 3, book 3, however they do this, we don't know, and you're still not enjoying it, that's a point where you can go, yeah, I'm really not liking how they're doing this. You could even do that in season 2. You know, halfway through season 1, you might sense that they're doing it a little bit weirdly, and there's going to be things that all of us are going to pick up on and go, I really don't like how they're doing this. But there is a tendency to really attack actors and to attack...
And it's not their fault.
It's not their fault. It's like, you know, it's a job. People are being directed.
It specifically says in this article that we will share that this TV series, which will serve as a faithful adaptation of the Harry Potter books, found its showrunner, Francesca Gardiner, and Mark Mylod will direct several episodes and serve as executive producer.
Again, we're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm quite optimistic.
I am too. They keep saying faithful adaptation, which is what I've always wanted. And don't get me wrong, I know that I can shit on the movies a lot sometimes. I still love them. I just love the books more.
And that's fair enough. I think if they were not going to do it faithfully, then they'd kind of be defeating the point, because I don't think anyone was really calling for a series for any other reason than for it to be faithful to the books.
Very true. I mean, how long, maybe even from the beginning of this podcast, and I'm sure people have been saying it before, but I think since the beginning of this podcast, back when I was doing it with Katie, we were saying we wanted a TV series that stuck to the book. So the fact that they're actually holding casting calls for said TV series is pretty fucking awesome.
It's really exciting. It makes it real.
I kind of feel powerful.
It's not, you know, it's not a random rumor which is never going to happen. People are actually making this thing.
Right? It's really cool. And like I said, we'll share this article, so you'll be able to look at it for yourself. And hey, if you are a person in the UK or Ireland with a child or nibbling or something that is within that age range, fuck it, take them to the casting call.
For sure.
I believe it's going to be in April of 2025, so it's in the article.
Well, that will bring us to this week's trivia question, which is, what does Luna say a Gurdy root is good for warding off? The first one who responds with the correct answer and the code word #onion-like object will get a sticker.
Another way to get a sticker is to rate and review us, either through Apple or whatever podcast platform you listen on, or on our Facebook page. Make sure to email us at foxsakepod@gmail.com to let us know you did, and we'll get back to you to figure out which sticker you want and where to send it. Don't forget to find us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at foxsakepod. Following us on Podbean at foxsakepod will get you the episode as early as possible and give you a leg up in answering the trivia question. You can also go to our website at forfoxsakepodcast.com to check out our For Fox's Sake and Harry Potter related merchandise for sale. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where, in addition to our weekly podcast episodes, we post some other random videos like blooper reels, vlogs, our old cooking show episodes, hopefully new ones if we manage to make some. We do have a patron program. You can find us on Patreon at Fox's Sake Pod. Patronage starts at $2 and will get you some awesome perks like For Fox's Sake swag, access to our Discord channel, chats, and more. Check out our page for the details.
As always, any support you can give is greatly appreciated.
And join us next time when we talk about the first half of Chapter 20, Lord Voldemort's Request, and the absolutely no corresponding film scenes.
That is shocking.
Again.
Thanks for listening. We hope you hear us again. I'm Max.
I'm Ellen, and we are For Fox's Sake.